Hello, today I'm turning my Raspberry Pi 5 into a tiny desktop computer. This is the Elecrow mini PC case and it comes with some really interesting features like an OLED screen, 3 cooling fans and even support for an M.2 SSD. So in this video I will unbox it, build it step by step, test how it performs and see if this is actually one of the best cases for a Raspberry Pi 5. Let's start with the unboxing. Inside the box we get quite a lot of parts. At first it might look a bit overwhelming, but everything is clearly labeled and described in the instruction, and the assembly process is actually pretty straightforward. In the package we get the acrylic and aluminum case panels, 3 cooling fans, PCIe to SSD adapter board, Raspberry Pi 5 GPIO adapter, TF card adapter, OLED module, metal switch, heatsinks, screwdriver, some wire, tape and many screws. So this is definitely more than just a simple Raspberry Pi case. It's more like a complete mini PC kit. Now let's assemble everything. First we start by installing the fans into the case. One important thing to pay attention here is the airflow. 2 of the fans are designed to pull air into the case, while one of them pushes the hot air out. This airflow setup helps keep the Raspberry Pi cool, so it's important to install them in the correct orientation. Next we install the power button. After downloading the code from GitHub and running a few commands, this button will allow us to properly power on and shut down our new mini PC. Now it's time to install the OLED module. This small display will show useful system information like temperature, CPU usage, memory usage and other system stats. Next, we need to install a few standoffs, so we have proper mounting points to the Raspberry Pi and the other components. Make sure to pay attention here because they have different heights. Now we attach the thermal conductive silicone to the Raspberry Pi. Don't forget to remove the protective tape from both sides before placing it. And finally we can install the cooling system. One thing I really like here is that the cooler is already included in the kit. So if you haven't bought a cooler for your Raspberry Pi yet, this case already comes with one, which is really nice. Now we connect the tape from M.2 adapter to the GPIO adapter board. Thanks to this, adapter will still have access to the GPIO pins without needing to open the case, which is really convenient design. Now we connect everything to Raspberry Pi and install the micro SD card adapter. This is another nice feature because it allows you to access the SD card without opening the case. Now some cable and tape and a small battery that comes with the kit. That's actually a big plus for me because I don't have this type of battery at home. Now we can finally start bringing everything together. At this point we can install M.2 SSD. Just quick note, the SSD isn't included in the kit. In the future I probably take one from an old laptop because it will definitely perform better than a micro SD card. Next we connect the fans. From what I noticed, it doesn't really matter which connector you use for each fan. Now we connect the power button and finally install the acrylic panels. They actually look really nice and give the whole case a cool mini PC look. Although I'm a bit curious how easy they'll be to keep clean. Finally we add the screw and rubber pads on the bottom. And that's it, the case should now be fully assembled. The only things left are installing the firmware, running some tests and actually enjoying using it. For the firmware installation, just remember that you'll need root permissions to copy some of the required files, but everything is clearly explained in the GitHub repository. There are also instructions for the Jetson or Nano because this case supports that device as well. The installation steps are slightly different, but I won't go through that today since I'm using a Raspberry Pi. I'm really happy that Elecrow sent me this case because it gave me a great excuse to upgrade my Raspberry Pi. My Raspberry Pi 3 is already quite a few years old, so I'm glad to replace it with something newer, especially in such cool looking case. And actually in the future I'm planning to make a small modification to the case and the cooling system. So if you're curious how that turns out, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Alright, everything is assembled and honestly it looks pretty awesome. This case has a really interesting design. It looks almost like a teeny gaming PC. We have 3 fans for cooling, OLED screen on top and plenty of airflow. The small OLED screen on the top can display useful system information like CPU usage, temperature and time. It's a small feature but it actually makes the setup feel much more like a real computer. Another great feature is the support for an M.2 SSD. Instead of running the Raspberry Pi from a micro SD card, you can install a much faster M.2 drive. This makes the system boot faster and improves overall performance. Let's connect it to my 34-inch monitor and see how it performs as a desktop computer. We are now running the Raspberry Pi OS and everything feels surprisingly smooth. You could use this setup for many different projects: a mini desktop computer, a home server, NAS, or even a retro gaming console. If you are interested in retro gaming console, I actually made a full tutorial on my channel showing how to turn a Raspberry Pi into a retro gaming console. And I also have another video where I built a small home NAS with a Raspberry Pi. During normal use, the case performs really well. The cooling is so efficient that the Raspberry Pi fan hardly even turns on. The temperature usually stays around 40 degrees. So, I decided to push it a bit. First, I ran a short, intense test on all 4 cores. The temperature climbed slowly and just before it finished, the fan turned on, showing that the system reacts as it heats up. Next, I ran a longer test using all cores continuously. The fan kicked in again, but the Pi handled everything smoothly. No crashes, no hiccups, everything stayed stable. Even during 5-minute stress test, the temperature never reached 60 degrees. For comparison, a Raspberry Pi without a case can easily get above 80 degrees under heavy load. This setup keeps things cool and reliable, even when we really push it. So overall, this case is actually really impressive. You get good cooling, OLED display, M.2 SSD support, and really cool mini PC look. If you're building a Raspberry Pi 5 project and want something more powerful than a basic case, this might be a really interesting option. Of course, no product is perfect. One thing I noticed with this case is that the fan can be a bit loud. Because there are 3 small fans inside, the noise is definitely noticeable. It's not terrible, but if you're planning to use this as a desktop computer, you will definitely hear it. I actually already have an idea how to fix that. In the next video I'm going to try to make this case much quieter. So if you are curious whether we can turn this into a silent Raspberry Pi mini PC, subscribe and don't miss new episode. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Bye.